So for the adult section in corporate finance, we're going to talk about two key concepts then. The problem of agency, and then key financial statements and how to interpret them. So let's start with the agency problem. And feel free to stop at any time. If we have any questions or anything like that, I'll pause the video and I'll pause the recording and we'll go over them. So,
Schwab, bringing you an elevated experience tailor-made for trader minds. Hey guys, I am Deric. Welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to explain to you what is agency problem. For sole proprietorships or partnerships, the management and the owners are usually the same group of people. The management runs the business to satisfy their own goals, needs, and financial requirements. Therefore, there would be no conflict or less conflict. However, when a company moves from private to public ownership, the management and the owners are now two different groups of people. This is what we call an agency relationship. The shareholders hire managers to run the company. Shareholders are the principals, they are the boss of the company. Managers are the agents of the company.
so just to pause this for a second, to superimpose our school board structure upon this sort of a thing. There's a problem of agency with the school board. The shareholders or the principals in this case, or the model for that, I guess, would be considered to be the Board of Education. Technically, they're actually a board elected by we, the shareholders. But what they do is they hire managers, and the manager, they only hire one manager. They hire the superintendent to run the company, that is the school, and then the superintendent, enforces the policies that the board of directors, which are the principals in this case, ratified through truant law.
So, managers are representing the shareholders to run the business. That's when the agency problem happens, as there is a conflict of interest between the principal and the agent. Managers may have their own interests or goals, which may not align with those of the shareholders. For example, they may prioritize their own salaries or bonuses over maximizing profits for the company. The cost associated with mitigating agency problems, such as monitoring the agent's actions or creating incentives to align the agent's interests with those of the principal, is known as agency cost. In other words, agency cost is used to minimize agency problems. Agency cost arises from agency problems is borne by shareholders, which is representing a loss of shareholder wealth.
So the way that this pans out then is that in theory, our Board of Education is supposed to be keeping an eye on the administrative staff in order to make sure that they are carrying out the will of the Board of Education, which is the education of the students. However, there's a competing conflict of interest with the managers, like the superintendent or the assistant superintendent, in terms of what are they there for there? Yes, they're there to help the schools, but they're also there to make sure that they stay in their job and collect their paycheck. So the paycheck is the manager's aim, but the board of directors, or excuse me, the shareholders, the principal, their aim, or at least their elected aim, is to make a better curriculum for the students.
Whenever a manager owns less than 100% of the firm's equity, a potential agency problem exists. In theory, managers would agree with shareholder wealth maximization. However, managers are also concerned with their personal goals and needs, such as high salary, allowance, bonus, job security, good working environment, and flexible working hour. But what the shareholders want would be high share price, high dividend, and high profit. So, shareholders' want are different from what managers want. This would cause the managers to act in ways that do not always benefit the firm's shareholders. To solve the agency problem, first, the company may implement management compensation plans. Incentive plans tie management compensation to share price. Managers will be rewarded if the share price goes up. For example, the granting of stock options. Managers are given a special right to purchase the company's shares at a predetermined price within a stipulated period, usually at a cheaper price. For the managers that receive stock options as their bonus reward, now, they become the shareholders of the company. Most likely, they will put in effort to work their best to make the share price go up, so that they can earn the best return from the stock options. Another similar management compensation plan is the performance plan. Performance plans tie management compensation to EPS or growth in EPS. EPS is earnings per share, something related to share price as well. If the managers can hit the targeted EPS, reward the managers with shares and or cash bonuses. These plans can help align the needs of managers and shareholders, so that managers are working for the shareholders' benefits and their own benefits at the same time. The second method to solve agency problem is by market forces. Shareholder activism. Through executing voting power, shareholders participate in activities that can change the corporation. For example, if the shareholders are not satisfied with the performance of the existing management, they can elect new board of directors during annual general meeting. Strong and independent BOD can engage in dismissing ineffective top management who causes agency problems. BOD can also replace poorly performing managers. Shareholder activism is usually done by the large institutional investors who hold large amount of shares. So, institutional investors play an important role in shareholder activism. It is because they have more power to place pressure on the management to take actions and to maximize shareholder wealth. The third method to solve
So technically, shareholder activism is one way for sure that in our school board there is the power to get rid of corrupt officials. I.e., in this case, it would be the superintendent. If we had a strong board of education that would be keeping a watch on the superintendent and then saying, okay, you're not doing a great job, you got to go, and then of course being able to elect the next superintendent. We, as both shareholders and stakeholders of this district, are limited in our ability because we're not institutional shareholders like the Board of Education is. We only have the ability to actually elect the Board of Education, and so we're one step removed from this process.
I would
Yes.
argue that is so these big funds like BlackRock and other State Street actually are abusing their authority by voting how the institution wants rather than how the shareholders want. Because we are technically the shareholders.
Correct.
And they're basically taking over as a proxy for us.
Correct.
And voting all these shares that they own for all the shareholders. That's where ESG comes from.
But when we superimpose the rubric of the school board, in technically the Board of Education, when they're rubber stamping things without actually chatting with the public, are doing the same thing,
Yes,
right?
they are.
Basically.
Exactly right.
But if you look at the framework of how it's designed to work, we're not actually one step removed, right?
No.
I mean,
It's the same
you know,
structure.
the Board of Education works for the public that elects them.
They're supposed to, yes.
So they should be, and this is part of my argument of why public comment should happen before they vote on anything, because that gives the Board of Education a chance to hear from their constituents what's important to them or how they want them to vote, and then they cast their vote as a representative of the constituents that they work for. Obviously, based on how they've even structured their agendas, they have forced a system where we are one step removed, and they will vote how the Michigan Association of School Boards or the Michigan Education Association tell them to vote, as opposed to who they work for.
This is why also I think a lot of us were behind the idea before, I think it was last year, when they floated the idea of a public forum for public comment, wherein we could actually have some idea of what was going to happen at the next school board meeting and make public comment regarding it. Then all of the dog and pony show came out, and that basically got sidelined and has never been brought up again. So we still are only stuck with the school board, and we can only comment after everything's already been done.
Yep.
But let's go to a matter that happened at one next school board meeting where Paul Doyle thanked the school board for their job, but also challenged them to be involved in the busing issue, the bus driver issue, okay, how it was. And as I thought about that more and more thereafter, I went, it's not the school board, it's the superintendent managing the administration that's not happening. So him deferring that to the school board members was a facade.
It will go nowhere because from what I've learned, the school board only acts as a legislative body. So they basically have ideas, they bring it to Truant law, Truant turns it into policies they can vote on, and then the executive body that upholds the laws is the superintendent and the administrative system. So if we superimpose the American style of government, the executive and the legislative branch are technically the superintendent and administrators and the legislature respectively. Or at least that's what I've been told, because honestly, I go to all these assistant superintendents and they say, well, if it's not in the board book policy, I can't do anything about it. And so then they say, you should, that's happened to me. I got the runaround from Scott Hayden. So that's where I actually started going to school board members and I started asking, okay, well, how does stuff get put into the board book? And as it turns out, these are ideas and policies floated by board members that go to Truant, and then Truant actually makes up the official legalese that then they vote on.
So Paul Doyle speaking out on Monday, was it just a mouthpiece?
Kind of.
Okay.
It can be easily ignored by them if they so choose to do it.
That's exactly what I thought. Okay, all right. And there's no responsibility by the interim.
Unfortunately.
All right.
Okay. Anything else before I keep going with this? I'm terribly sorry to keep breaking, but I do want to
No,
make sure
that's good.
that we make this more concrete to the people of the district.
Agency problem is by threat of takeover. This is an external force from outsiders. When a firm's internal corporate governance structure is unable to keep agency problems in check, it is likely that rival managers will try to gain control of the firm as they look for companies that are poorly managed and undervalued. These rival managers from other companies are the potential acquirers. The threat of takeover by another firm can provide a strong source of external corporate governance. It can enhance the troubled firm's value by restructuring its management, operations, and financing. In other words, to prevent the company to be taken over by other competitors, the existing management will have to work properly for the benefits of shareholders. So that agency problem can be solved because of the threat from competitors. Next, we will talk about the role of business ethics. Ethical behavior means doing the right thing.
Yes.
But different people define right thing in
Take a quick pause.